Hey everybody, we're back. New bookcase today. Rearrange the living room. And rearranging the living room just works out better to put the chair here in front of a different bookcase. So, get a new set of books for you to check out. Over here, if I can point, got some of the classics that I wish I could say I'd read them all. But I've got them in case one day the fancy strikes me. I've read some of them. And then I've got some of the religious books here in the back, some of the commentaries and such. So, anyway, welcome to a new view. Anyway, hope everybody's doing great, and that this brief recording finds everybody in a good place. Thought I'd continue today. Maybe it'll be a little shorter, I hope. Continuing to talk a little bit about this passage out of Hebrews chapter 12. Been looking at this, like I said, this is a great passage that you can use. I like this passage. I almost wanted to call this lessons from the bike, because that's really what this is going to be in a lot of ways. It's me talking about things I've learned about my faith from cycling and how they relate to this passage. I think it's a great passage. So last week we talked a little bit about running the race with endurance, this idea that our Christian faith, our Christian walk, our Christian lives, our journeys are endurance events. They're not sprints. They're not going to happen quickly and be done with. So the next thing I wanted to talk a little bit about is this idea beginning in verse 2. And the author, Paul maybe, writes to the congregation of Hebrews in Jerusalem maybe. Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith. And I want to talk a little bit about that, why that's important, why that's such an important thing to actually have in here. One of the things, right now I'm mostly a road bike racer, race a lot of time trials on the road bike, mass start events, a few of them. But there was a time when I was a mountain biker. I raced my mountain bike a lot. I really enjoyed it. Met a wonderful group of guys that I raced with, guys that I wish I stayed in contact with a little more, but our lives have taken us some separate directions. But when I was learning to mountain bike, there was a saying that I heard that at first didn't make any sense, and then it made all the sense in the world, and that was, don't look at the tree. And you sit there and you go, what are you talking about? Don't look at the tree. But one of the things that happens when you're mountain biking is, say I'm out at Dorset Trails, which is a great place to ride a mountain bike, and I'm on one of the more advanced trails out there, and I'm cruising along at maybe 15 miles an hour, and there's a sharp right-hand turn that I got to get ready for. Well, there are two ways to deal with that turn, because in the apex of that turn, and right in the middle of the turn, there's always a tree. There's always some big old tree, and one of the jokes we have is trees never move, and they always win when you have a collision. And so, you don't want to miss that tree. You want to follow the trail through, carve the perfect line through the corner, maintain as much speed as you can, get back on the pedals and go. And when I first started riding, and first, basically everybody deals with this, they first start riding their mountain bike, is you end up looking at that tree because that's what you don't want to hit. And so you look at it, and you look at it, and you look at it, and then you hit it. And you're telling yourself the whole time, don't hit the tree, don't hit the tree, don't hit the tree, don't hit the tree, don't hit the tree. And then pretty soon you recognize you're going to hit the tree, and you're on the brakes, and maybe you're going over the hill, and it's just a mess. What you learn pretty quickly is you look at where you want to go, not where you don't want to go. You don't look at the tree, you look at the spot through the turn that you want to end up at. And it's amazing. If you cannot look at the tree, if you can look at that spot where you want to go, you 98% of the time get to that spot, and the other 2% of the time, if you miss it, you don't miss it by running straight into the tree. Whereas if you look at that tree, you're done. You're 75% of the time going to end up clipping that tree or hitting that tree or something. The other 25% of the time, you're out of control as you make it through the corner, and it's a mess. So we have the saying, don't look at the tree. And I think this passage, this thing that we're talking about here, speaks to that a lot. And that is, set your eyes, or let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter, or the author and pioneer of our faith. That idea that in life, we want to look at where we want to go. And if we're looking at everything in our culture and everything in our society around us, well, that's where we're going to end up, you know. And I don't want to pick on anybody, but there's plenty of really terrible reality TV or lots of that kind of stuff, that if you watch that and you look at that, and that becomes the formative influence in your life, then that's what you become. Whereas if what you look at is Jesus, if what you look at is his life, his teachings, his words, his community, the way that he sets out before us, if that's what you're looking at in life, and you're not looking at all of the obstacles and all of the negatives and all of the other things, then you have a much better chance of carving that perfect turn, of making it not hitting that tree. And the thing that's really interesting about this is that, you know, the text here, and I'm reading out of the NIV when I say the author and perfecter of our faith, if you get into the Greek, the Greek's really interesting here in that part, because really what the correct translations, which are difficult to do in English, is to think of when it says the author, it's that Jesus is the guy that creates the race course. He's the first guy to lay out the track. He's the first guy, when we talk about mountain biking, he's the first guy to lay in that trail, the first guy to find that perfect turn, to carve it just the right way, to hook up with the traction just on the other side, just the way you're supposed to do it. And then perfecter is, he's the first guy that completes the race. He isn't just the author and perfecter, but he's the guy who lays out the course and is the first to complete the course. And so we are not going anywhere that our Savior hasn't already been. And that's our goal here in life. So anyway, I hope as you read through this and as you think about that and you're going through life and you're confronted with the difficulty, a thing that's going to trip you up, that what you think about and what you look at is Christ and his life and the way that he sets out for us, rather than looking at the obstacles, rather than looking at, you know, the philandering politicians, to take an example out of the news from yesterday, or whatever, and suggesting that and only that is what this world has. We have somebody who's been through this, who's carved the perfect turn, who's missed the tree by looking at where we want to go and being where we want to go. And so, as we go forward from here, again, Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith. Set your eyes on him and what he has and set in store for us, and we'll get to where we're going. So anyway, from in front of a different bookcase, until next week, I hope you all do great. Hang in there. Grace, peace.